Come here, partner. Let me tell you something today about lifts. We're going to educate you on making the right decisions when purchasing a lift or not even getting a lift in the first place. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice to go ahead and get your rig all set up and not have to spend thousands of dollars on something that's going to give you 2 to 3 inches? Now, I know a lot of you boys need 2 to 3 inches, maybe even 4. But we ain't talking about that. We talking about lifts. So get your head out the gutter, boy. Because the Lord ain't going to put up with that. Let's get into it, shall we? So guys, like I said earlier in the video, you might not need a lift at all. You might just need bigger tires or more aggressive tires. And you really need to figure out what you're trying to tackle and what's in your local area. And you can find all this information out on trail guides or forums or join an off-road group. And when you start talking to other people, you can figure out, hey, well, this guy has this, that, and the fourth, and he tackled this trail. But from what he told me, I don't really need that. I can literally take my rig as it sits right now and go do that trail because it's a very easy trail. And a lot of people under the misconception that you need to get your lift first, and that's not the case. There's a lot more important things to get before your lift. And you have to realize that your rig and your experience need to grow together. Because you can create a rig that can tackle anything on the planet, but if you don't know how to do everything on the planet, then why did you spend all that money on something that you can't really utilize? So, getting recovery gear, getting body armor, getting better tires, all of these things plus more can really benefit you before the lift. So figure out what you guys need, figure out what is really in your capabilities, and then take it from there. So you decided to actually get a lift. Now you're wondering, how much lift do I need? And there's a great general rule of thumb when it comes to off-roading. Get as big of an amount of a tire as you need with the least amount of lift. Because you will see guys on the trail and they got huge tires and they got a huge amount of lift, and they are not capable of handling that much lift, and they'll be rolling over the vehicle. Or if it's a daily driver and you go to take an evasive maneuver and you end up rolling the thing, or just taking a turn and realize that you took the turn a little too fast and now you're on your side or rolled over. So going back to the whole making sure you're upgrading your rig as your experience is growing, it's the same thing. You don't want to get 6 inches of lift and then you're gonna turn around and roll it over. And that whole buy once, never buy again kind of concept does apply to certain things, but if you roll over your rig, you're gonna do a lot more than buying another lift. You're gonna be, of course, buying a whole other vehicle, especially if you total it. So keep these things in mind when you're looking at lifts, because there's going to be a lot of guys on YouTube and at shops and all these different places that are going to try to sell you on as big of lift as you can get. And really, you don't need it. You don't need the biggest kit every company offers. So just keep that in mind when you're picking out your height. You figured out you needed a lift. You figured out how many inches of lift you need. Now you're going down to the bottom of that web page and it's talking about weight. And you're like, weight? What weight? I don't know how much my vehicle weighs. What is this? It's not asking you how much your weight is or how much the suspension is going to weigh. It's asking you how much extra weight that you're going to be adding to your vehicle when you're off-roading. Now, a lot of people don't understand is, oh, well, I'm probably going to carry about 200 pounds of camping gear and maybe 100 pounds of recovery gear and this, that, these many people. You have to also take in consideration everything you've added to the vehicle that's sprung weight, not unsprung weight, which if you don't know what that is, Google it. I can go into that a whole another video. But all your sprung weight, what you're adding to it. So if you got a new set of bumpers, you got a winch, you got, you know, huge, you know, tent, roof tent. These things have to be taken into consideration, because if you don't, your 4-inch lift that you just got just now dropped down to a 2-inch, because you have all that extra weight, and that suspension system is not built for that weight. Now, if you think, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get, you know, 400 pounds. That's what I've calculated. That's what, you know, I need. If you drive that vehicle with that extra 400 pounds and you don't carry that 400 pounds on a normal basis, or you know, maybe drive as a daily driver, you need to realize that's going to be a bumpy ride, because that suspension is set up to be constantly under an extra 400 pounds of load, and that spring and that shock are really stiff, and now you just got a bouncy ride. And the only way to fix that is to add weight to your vehicle. So don't get it thinking, oh, well, in the future I'm going to be doing this. You need to figure out what you're going to do now, which you're going to use it mostly as, because you can spend all this money on this lift and you're going to hate your ride. And not only that, if you're underloaded, you're going to wear your tires out more. You're going to wear out your back. I'm telling you, if you've ever been in a ride that has too stiff a suspension and you can't get it to soften up at all, you're in a world of hurt. So that's what it means when we're talking about weight. So guys, the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is shocks. And more importantly, when picking out a shock, knowing what that shock is designed for makes it a lot easier to pick shocks out. Some shocks are designed for trophy truck racing, which, you know, have the external reservoir and can be rebuilt, and, you know, shock fade happens at a slower rate. But, you know, unless you're really racing over, you know, the desert, you don't really need that shock. And, you know, even if you kind of are going to be fast off-roading, do you know how to rebuild a shock? I mean, it's a lot of money up front for those types of shocks, and then the rebuild isn't cheap. I mean, I know some shocks that are out there that you can buy it and the rebuild kit is almost as expensive as like a cheaper shock, which would work well for my application. So I'm essentially buying a shock because it's the best. I mean, it might be for certain things, but it's not the best for me. So don't let anybody try to upsell you on a shock. Realize what that shock is designed for. Realize what the shock's gonna need from you, and have an informed pick. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said earlier in the video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you later.